This is about defending democracy. This is no longer Democrats versus Republicans. What do you want your kids to believe in? There must be give and take.
This is White Flag with Joe Walsh.
I found it. Look, I love ice cream, but I'm not 18 years old anymore, so I can't eat a lot of it. But I found it. I found a healthy ice cream alternative that actually tastes great. Sweet pea non-dairy ice cream, get this, it's made with chickpeas. I know, it tastes great. Tastes and feels like real ice cream. Look, I screwed around with soy-based and oat-based products. They all tasted like shit. Sweet pea made from chickpeas is the first healthy alternative I've found that I absolutely love. I'm in DC. I get sweet pea at Giant Foods. If you're in DC, Philly, Pennsylvania, go to Giant Food stores. If you're in New York City, go to Balducci or Key Foods. In San Francisco, go to Nugget. You will absolutely love this. By the way, if you're in DC this weekend, the 24th and 25th, I'm going to be out at the 31st annual barbecue battle. Sweet Pea is going to have a booth out there from 11 to 7 every day. Come on out and join us on Pennsylvania Avenue between 6th and 7th. It tastes great. Made with chickpeas. That's so cool. It tastes great.
Hey, former Congressman Joe Walsh, back with you. This is White Flag with Joe Walsh. Every week I sit down with people who don't think like me, because that's a hell of a lot more interesting. I'm sitting down with Joe Trippi today, longtime Democratic strategist, consultant, worked on a number of campaigns over the years. He joined the Lincoln Project a year or two ago to help build a pro-democracy coalition. Joe Trippi is also the host of his podcast, That Trippi Show. Joseph, thank you, my friend, for joining me.
It's great to be with you, Joe.
I wanted to pick your brain, and I'm going to start with a stupidly broad question. We're 16 to 17 months out from a presidential election. As you look big picture, where are we at right now? This race for president, where are we at?
I think the same place we've been for literally 6, 7, ever since the moment Donald Trump came down that damn escalator. We're in the same, pretty much the same place. I mean, Pete, I keep saying, and a lot of us keep saying, fight the war you're in, not the war you want to be in. The war we're in is clearly, I think, moving towards Joe Biden being the nominee of the Democratic Party. There's no way that's going to change. And it's clear still to me, at least, and a lot of people, that Trump is very likely again. Today I'd bet that he's the nominee of the Republican Party. So it's going to be a replay, but I think it's also a replay of that same contrast that benefited thinly the pro-democracy side of things in both 2020 and 2022, or at least held it back. Put it down. The the authoritarians got held back, just by a little bit, not quite. They didn't quite have enough.
Joe, do you agree with me that I think, and maybe I'm going to be proven wrong, every indictment strengthens him within the Republican Party? Do you believe that?
I mean, I think he's got a solid, even if you look at, I think CNN came out with a poll that showed some slight drop of support for Trump. But basically, even in that one, it's the same number. I mean, when they saw the slight drop of 3 points or something, it's the same, 54, 51, it's the same number. And that seems pretty solid. And not likely to go anywhere. And then fundamentally, even if you buy the CNN polling that showed that when sort of put point blank, do you want Trump or do you want somebody else? And 49% of the party said they wanted somebody else. Well, 51 is going to be 23, 9, 8, 7, 4 every day of the week. And I don't see. And I'm not even sure, frankly, if everybody else got out, whether that 49 would go to somebody like DeSantis or any one of the people, because they sort of represent different. I mean, there's probably some never Trump kind of people maybe voting for Tim Scott or somebody, but they're not going to vote for DeSantis, I don't think. So I just think it's all, he's solid. The rest of it's pretty fractured, and I don't see how it coalesces or how an indictment or something else, further shoes dropping. How many shoes have dropped? How many times have you and I heard, oh, this will be the thing that does it? And it just doesn't happen.
And the other thing that's interesting, Joe, even in that CNN poll, maybe Trump dropped 2 or 3 points. DeSantis didn't rise a point.
Right.
And so, I think he's a weak number 2, which helps Trump. Do you buy that?
Yeah, it's both things. He's won a weak number 2, but the strongest number 2. Yeah. Ergo, he's strong enough to stay there, and so weak that he's never going to catch Trump, I don't think. And again, I think there may be people who still are. Look, I've done involved in focus groups and things. It's fascinating to watch Republicans. Who some of them will talk about, and I've said this before, hanging by the edge of their fingernails on a cliff, still hanging in the party, appalled by many of the things Trump and others, but still hanging in it. Those people some of them broke off and voted, and they would describe themselves like almost poisonously spitting the word Democrat out. But some of them, for the first time in their lives, decided to vote and shift and vote for Biden and the Democrats. Without those people, I'm not sure Biden could have won in 2020.
Really?
And so I think they're still in the party hoping that it's not Trump. But if it is Trump, and probably if it's DeSantis, I still think that group fundamentally will either stay home or many of them will bite the bullet and close their eyes. And as much as they've been sort of conditioned to see that poisonous Satan, whatever whatever has been sort of the demonization of the Democratic brand, they've still, enough of them decided democracy or calmness or getting away from the chaos was enough to make them take the risk. And I think, by the way, if it wasn't Joe Biden, I frankly don't know who we would have been, who we could have nominated or be president today that would still kind of let that happen. I mean, where enough of them look at him, and he's not, he's not as demonized as, or he doesn't anger or make them afraid as much as I think other people that Democrats could have nominated in 2020.
Joe, that's really interesting. And maybe you're right. I remember when I ended my idiotically hopeless primary challenge against Trump, I went on CNN and they asked me if I'd support the Democratic nominee. And I said, hell yes. And it doesn't matter who the Democratic nominee is. I'll support Bernie. But do you think like most former Republicans or those Republicans hanging on like me, they wouldn't support any Democrat? Like Biden was uniquely suited to get them?
I think he was the best suited to get them. Okay. I'm not, and I'm sure there are people that would be the worst. There's no way, right? Like a Doug Jones, the senator from Alabama. He would have, who's not going to run, isn't running. I don't want to start that stuff. But I mean, it was more when we looked at it. In fact, Alabama was one of the first places I was looking at this because I was doing work for Doug Jones at the time. Right. And we spotted these voters. A lot of them were the ones that voted for him. Remember, he only won by 23,000 votes in Alabama. That's right. Alabama. That's right. These were the voters that in 2017, they were the Republican voters that voted for Doug Jones, that that where I first saw this. A lot of them were women talking about hanging on by the edge of
Yeah.
their seats. Of course, that was very early in Trumpism. In 2017, it's gotten worse. But on the other hand, that group that's hanging by the edge of their fingernails has gotten a little bigger, I think. In other words, back then it may have only been 5, 6, 7% of the party. I think it could now be 12, 15, 16, somewhere up there, a lot bigger pool of voters that two things happen that are helpful on the pro-democracy side. They stay home.
Yeah.
That helps. Or some of them, enough of them break in Georgia and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and those places vote. Enough of them vote for Biden and Democrats.
Do you count, and Joe, these voters? Do you count even people like me, conservatives who've left the party and are all in supporting Democrats?
They're already in the number that when you look at 40, like when you look at that, Biden's ahead 43 to 41 or 43 to 39. Those people tend to already have made the decision you've made that you're going to vote. I'm talking about people who right now are maybe thinking they are going to vote in the Republican Party nomination still.
Yeah.
Part of this is all normalcy bias. We all want to believe that our party can get over this, including me when I think we're going off the rails on an issue. And so I think look, there are a lot of people. You've been you're 40, 50, 60 years old. You've voted Republican your entire life. You've never once voted for a Democrat. They are. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's a very small. We're talking about 3-4 points, but that 3 or 4 points, and now that could be 7 or 8. That 3 or 4 points, as when you look at what happened in Georgia, what happened, Pennsylvania, tens of thousands of votes, and Arizona again, a very, very small margin there. They're the people that I think are going to decide this. I think part of that, part of what makes them, and we've seen this also, Joe, in other polling that has really asked people, okay, you can't stand either one of these guys.
Right.
Okay, now that you've told us you can't stand either one of them, if it's them, who are you going to vote for? I think there's been a number of polls. The one that I think it was, I can't remember whose poll it was, but there's several, and Biden wins that group 54 to 17. I mean, there's like most of those people when they're in, when they have to decide, whatever the concerns they have about Biden, whether it's age or something else, or they think they've again been conditioned over the years to, all Democrats are evil and, and socialists, whatever.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of damage to that brand. Some of it's done. So I'm not, but it's there. They still, in the end, if it's the contrast between Trump and this authoritarian MAGA cult versus when they look across and it's Joe Biden, even if they do think, oh my gosh, is he taking us, in the wrong direction? They will decide that calm, whatever, getting, the non-chaotic administration that just, I keep saying that they keep doing the Biden administration and keeps doing the work.
Yeah.
That's the contrast. I think that contrast of Joe Biden before he was president in going into 2020 is what made the difference. I think that same contrast, even though they did pick up the seats in the House, but that's what stopped that big red wave that was supposed to, swamp everybody. That's why it didn't happen, because those voters in the end, enough of them in enough places said, no, I'd rather have this calm, just getting it quiet. It's almost like, Joe Biden doesn't make a lot of noise. He just gets things done.
Yeah.
And the contrast of a guy who makes a lot of noise, creates a lot of chaos, and by the way, incites people to do crazy stuff. I mean, so that it's that contrast, I think, that will still get that group I'm talking about. And there are a lot of independents in there. There's probably some working class, non-college whites in there who will, that whole group that really is this what the little swing that there still is.
Yeah.
I think is that's the contrast that continues to keep moving in the right direction. And frankly, the one thing we know, I mean, you got Bobart trying to do impeachment.
Yeah.
They're going to keep doing the chaos and crazy. It's only going to get worse, I think. And Trump will be more and more, out there speeches and rallies and things. So I think that contrast is going to become even clearer and clearer. And also maybe, with little luck, a lot of policies were put in place to help it happen. But if the economy also starts to, continues on this path and interest rates keep coming, if those things happen, I think Biden gets stronger.
Yeah.
And the chaos and the crazy and the threat, which is the other thing, because I think the other thing that I think is starting to happen is I think people always thought that the Trump thing was crazy. Yeah. I mean, the ones that saw that, I don't think they realized how it was dangerous. In other words, more sort of crazy clown car, not dangerous.
Right.
I think it's becoming more stark as, wait, that crazy stuff could be really dangerous. January 6th started that. So I think I do think that all that contrast is still why I'm optimistic about 2024. There's a bunch of stuff I'm really worried about. That I think, there's just too much coincidences going on here.
Right.
Where RFK Jr., encouraged by Steve Bannon to get into the Democratic Party and primary and challenge Biden. The Harlan Crow helping fund No Labels and then putting a third party up that could split. Sort of the point of why that's dangerous is, if you think through what I just said about these people hanging by a cliff, they really don't want to vote for a Democrat for the first time in their lives. And then you say, okay, and it's only 6, 7, 8%, but you say, oh, wait, we got something. We got Joe Manchin, or we got Larry Hogan, or we got Joe Walsh. I mean, who, you know what I'm trying to say? You can, come over here.
Yeah.
That's not gonna, none of the Trump diehards you're not going to split that vote up. The only vote you're going to split up is that sort of pro-democracy, moderate center that will give those people an escape route that is not that only helps Donald Trump become president.
It's interesting, Joe, as I'm listening to you, and I agree, I think, with your assessment, but you worry me because I think to myself, I think my former political party has become a real anti-democracy, authoritarian embracing thing. So and so I think, Joe, if Trump were out of the picture tomorrow, does everything you're saying right now still hold? If it's Biden, DeSantis, this group of people, the 6 to 7%, can that still hold for Biden, or Biden, Pence, whatever it is? Or is it Trump?
I don't think. I think Trump is the starkest contrast, but I think DeSantis has done a lot of the work for us again, but like Trump has, to put him. I mean, he's moved harder than Trump on a lot of this stuff, which I think will become clear. And it's also hard for me. The one thing, Joe, I still think in the end that people haven't thought out. Okay, tell me. Okay, DeSantis gets by him. Not DeSantis, Scott, whoever, pick one.
Yeah.
Larry Hogan somehow parachutes in the race.
Yeah.
The entire party becomes sane. They nominate, Larry Hogan. Okay, the thing that gives me hope on that side is not this thing about the people on the cliff coming over. It's that at that point, I don't know. You tell me. Is this the moment where, for the first time in his life, Donald Trump does the gracious thing?
Fuck no.
He doesn't say that DeSantis stole it, that he's part of the deep state, that cooed me, stay home, don't vote for him. No, he doesn't do that. He goes to the convention.
Yeah.
He goes up to the podium. He gives an impassioned speech about for the good of the party and the nation. And he holds DeSantis's hand up in the air and raises it high, and the place goes crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, this way, that's not going to. That's my point. So on the one hand, I see a path with Trump. On the other hand, even that, I don't see how anybody who's in the race right now against him, even if they're successful, even if they raise the money and defeat him, they're still going to be okay. Maybe today it's 51% of the party that are saying, "Oh, I'm voting for Trump." What are you going to get it down to? 35? And those people, and because you've talked to them, I've talked to them.
They're my people. Yeah.
They're when he, I don't know. Even if he did do that at the convention, and held DeSantis's head.
Still.
Yeah, they're going to stay home. They're going to be out there. In fact, that's the crazier thing is I think, the violence and crazy stuff that could happen in that scenario that he might fuel. So, my worries more in terms of 2024 are these dots that the press, I don't think, sees a connect. I mean, I think it's not an accident that RFK Jr.'s been encouraged by the Steve Bannons and the Alex Joneses of the world to get out there, and are saying out loud, Roger Stone and Bannon are saying out loud, he may be a great VP pick for Trump if he doesn't succeed on the Democratic side, that a lot of the funding for no labels and this third party idea, which I would normally not be, and I'm not sure that you would either be opposed to anybody. You have the right to do it. This is just the wrong freaking year.
Not now.
And the people that are funding them, the Harlan Crows. Come on. I mean, it's just not a coincidence. That's what I'm saying. It's these little things that we might, again, in that normalcy bias, say, oh, what the hell? RFK Jr., who cares? He's going to get 18% max. And it's not going to do anything. And then he shows up to the Republican convention, and you got no labels, trying to find a mansion or cinema or somebody like that. And we're in this place where we know it's like 14,000 votes in Georgia could decide the electoral, who gets those electoral votes. This is a reckless time.
Yes.
For those organizations to do it.
That's a really good way to describe it. It is reckless right now to do anything but support the Democratic nominee. And I think you're right. If Trump, it's too late for the Republican Party. If Trump's not the nominee, he's taken his 35%, and they're not playing. They're gone. So they're fucked. A lot of smart Republicans say, and Chris Sununu was saying this last week, everybody knows that Trump can't win in November. I want to know where you stand, Joe, because I don't buy that. I think Biden won by just a little bit, and I really worry. I think people are underestimating Trump's ability to win a matchup against Biden. Biden will have a record, and they'll hype that record in a bad way. Biden's age is an issue. I think I worry about those people in the middle who might kind of say, in time, like Trump was a few years ago, and they've forgotten how bad he is. I think we're underestimating his ability to beat Biden.
Yeah, I think that I would never underestimate that. I mean, that's the point. Donald Trump can win. He has. He's not going to win the popular vote. We know that the Republican Party hasn't won the popular vote, but once. Going back a couple decades now. So that's not going to happen. But I think look, we know how close it was in both 16 and 2020. I mean, we're talking about thousands of votes in a few states.
Bingo.
This thing's going to be decided by 5, 6, 7 states, how people vote, and some of them, like Pennsylvania be less than 40,000, Georgia less than 15, 16,000, Arizona the same.
Yeah.
We're really polarized. He has, again, those people are hanging by the thread, by their fingernails, but they're still in that party,
Yeah.
and they still can be. That's, by the way, why I think so much of this culture war stuff is like the card that keeps being played, because that keeps them, the fear of that, and of the other that they keep stoking, keeps them still hanging but still in the party.
Yeah.
So I don't. In the end, I think it'd be a big mistake because of the way the electoral college works. I think Joe Biden will win going away again. I mean, on the popular vote.
Yeah.
But Democrats waste a ton of votes. I mean, we'll win California by 5 million votes.
Yeah.
You can't take 5,000 or 10,000 of them and move them over to, and have them be, well, I'm sure that's what Trump will say happened, but it's not. Yeah. But I'm just saying, they waste votes, and I mean, the Trump votes will be wasted in places like Alabama, where he'll win that place by, he wish he could move some of those votes and use them over in Georgia or something, but it doesn't work that way. And so we know these places, we know how close they've been, and I think they're going.
Joe, what's your biggest fear and worry for Biden? Maybe fear and worry isn't the right way to put it.
I don't know. I mean, I think.
What's your biggest concern about Biden running again?
I don't have a concern about him running again. I mean, look, I know everybody, the age stuff and things like that, but the reality is, I don't know of anybody who, and Joe, come on, you've run for office and you've been there.
Yeah.
You ran, you won. You're doing a pretty damn good job in horrible circumstances. Yeah. By the way, with an obstructionist party that wants to take the whole thing out, right? Yeah. And like I said, in 2020, we had Mayor Pete and Kamala and everybody, running. I think if we had nominated any of them, I really honestly believe Joe Biden was in the end was the guy, the only one of the people running in 2020 that could have defeated Trump.
Okay, stop. So, Joe Trippi, stop. I want you to repeat that, because that's amazing to me, but I wanted to hear it from you. You really believe in 20, Biden was the only Democrat that could have beaten Trump? Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. Whoa. And then I'd say, okay, let's, when you ask me, what are you concerned about him running? Let's take him out of this race. He's not running. First of all, we'd be having one hell of a Donnybrook primary fight. It's the same thing you said, that nothing matters. Actually, I put to making sure we do every single thing to prevent Donald Trump from becoming president of the United States ever again.
Yes.
Okay, the one thing I think helps make that happen is Joe Biden, his record, what he's done. There's all kinds of questions. They'll hurt it, they'll attack him and everything else. But if you then say, no, let's go have a really divisive primary fight, wings of the party going after each other, I'd rather take the shot that we have with Joe Biden and against the opponent that I think is going to happen. And that contrast I talked about, they're both going to be taking shots, and Trump's definitely going to be going after Biden's age and everything else. But also, by the way, I think that'll be the least likely thing that they go after him on. I mean, it'll all be Hunter's laptop, corrupt Biden's being, stealing money from China, whatever. Which none of it, even if true, measures on any scale of what Trump's about, but I'm just saying. So, like, in the end, I think, look, there's always a lot of hand wringing, and particularly in the Democratic Party, there's always hand wringing about what. Oh my gosh, and so I'm not that focused on that. I'm more focused about what I think is sort of, and I don't want to be the conspiracy theorist here,
Yeah.
but this really sort of billionaire dark money thing that's messing with the Supreme Court, funding, probably helping Bannon, getting RFK Jr. in to damage Biden a little bit in the primary, maybe having, and who knows what dark money super PAC will come in, or independent expenditure will come in for RFK in the middle of the primary and attack Biden. So that kind of stuff that's the stuff, the tactical strategy that I think is clearly being organized and funded on the other side. That's my big story.
I want to drill down on that because, Joe, I think that's fascinating, but I want to back up for a second.
Sure.
And I want to ask my friend, Joe Trippi, lifelong Democrat, when you say Biden was the only one who could beat Trump in 20, and if not Biden next year, who? Isn't that a condemnation of where the Democratic Party is or how weak the party is? And I only say that, Joe, I ask that because I know how horrible and evil my former party is.
No, I'd put it, look, I think we have, like, you've got Newsom, you've got Whitmer in Michigan. There's plenty. Yeah, there's a bench. I think it would be a mistake, though, to vacate, say, okay, guys, I did my job. Now it's all up to you, and then have Newsom and Whitmer and Kamala, Mayor Pete,
you
whoever.
have Kamala there, so that's an issue for the Democrats.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But she may win. I mean, she's got every right to go. But then to have that fight, then and the schism, I wouldn't even be against that if Donald Trump wasn't sitting there saying, "Oh man, I'll pick up those pieces and be president again." Particularly with what's going on with dark money and no labels and other things out there. I think this is a time where to do anything else is reckless. And the organizations out there that are raising money and coming up with what I think are reckless schemes that endanger our democracy, whether it's wittingly or unwittingly, it's reckless. I would just, no, we need to be unified. I actually say that, look, it's not about two parties.
Right.
It isn't about three parties. This is about, are there enough citizens out there who are citizens? So a word we don't use a whole lot anymore in our politics. But are citizens put their differences aside with a common goal of, this is about whether democracy lives or dies, and can we all come together, enough of us come together to put Biden's age aside, whatever the thing that bothers you, put it aside. Vote for democracy. Vote to keep Donald Trump out of the White House. If you do that within the Republican primary, God bless you. Go over there, get behind somebody, see if you can fix it that way. But in the end, 2024 is going to be whether enough of us viewed ourselves as citizens, said, I'm not a member of a party. I'm not, and that's why we don't need two. We don't need three. Thank you, no labels. What we need is one. Is a common purpose, and the common purpose is to stop Donald Trump from becoming president and preserving our democracy. Then let's go argue about, you and I can get back to arguing about marginal tax rates and all that stuff.
Joe, do you, and like, it is uniquely Trump, because I do believe he's an existential threat, and I got into it with David Jolly a little bit a few weeks ago. Great guy. David thought that DeSantis was more dangerous than Trump. I don't think anybody's more dangerous than Trump. But do you?
I might agree with Jolly.
Well, that's interesting. Explain, Joe. That's interesting.
I think because in the end, DeSantis is more dangerous because no one sees it. I mean, what I'm saying is we all think he won't do what Trump. We all know Trump will go there, right?
Yeah.
we all know Trump, which makes sense. Oh, that's really dangerous because if he's in, he's gonna,
Yeah.
And I think DeSantis could be more dangerous because of that feeling that we all have that, or that we again, it's the normalcy bias. Gosh, yeah, he's crazier. He's even further more of a hardliner, but nah, at least he won't try to destroy the democracy and undermine.
And you're not
but look
sure.
at what he's doing.
And what's interesting, Joe, is like we know Trump tried to end our democracy. You
Right.
don't know if DeSantis would as well, do you?
No, not at all. But I'm saying, but that's what kind of makes But I think he could get more votes because of that. I mean, because
Okay.
you don't have that innate. It's tough. You go out to talk to people. I know 2 years ago, if you went out on the street, even after January 6th, you could go out and talk to people and say, Jesus, our democracy's at stake. This is autocracy versus democracy. And it was kind of like, oh man, we were QAnon,
Yes.
and so, I think there are a whole lot of people out there who want to believe that, it's only Trump. Any one of these other guys, even DeSantis, even as bad as he is, at least it'd be somebody more normal who we wouldn't have to have that fear. And so that bothers me only because he's the one of all the rest of them that I just have this, maybe but this gut feeling that, no, man, I don't want to try that one out. But
Joe,
I said, that could be me.
Look, I concur, and I know DeSantis pretty well. He's everything I think you and I fear. So if for some weird reason DeSantis were the nominee, your and my citizens come together to defend democracy, that would still be the cause, even if it wasn't Trump. Say if it was DeSantis.
Yeah. No, I think that would be I think that is and again, I still think going back, that's our message. And then DeSantis also has to deal with Trump's message or attacks on him in that general election. That DeSantis, I think it'll be tough. It'll be close, but I think we defeat the contrast alone and what's going on with Trump will defeat him in the general. We just have to do all the work. We have to get those people hanging by their nails hey. But I think that'll happen. If DeSantis is their nominee, then I think that's still the message from all of us have to come together. But at the same time, you're going to have the schism inside the party. I mean, you look at even what Marjorie Taylor Greene and Boebert internally are starting to go at. That schism will be there in just energized big time by Trump, and so that makes me feel okay about that potential outcome. And then, I don't know. I mean, if you get past that, unless it's look, if there was a Larry Hogan or there are people. Yeah,
Mitt
that's what I
Romney.
There.
Let's say
Mitt
Romney came back.
No, but that's there are people that. But how the hell that happens is then we're now in fantasy land. I mean, man, I would do cartwheels if that's what the race was, and people are upset about Biden's age. Fine, I don't mean that. Then the stakes are just so huge.
Yes.
For how fragile, people don't really realize how fragile democracy and our democracy is. We've been under it all this time. And it's a very fragile thing, particularly when you have somebody like Trump in an organized effort to take it out.
Perfectly put.
And so it's too fragile to mess with this cycle.
What, Joe, a quickie on no labels. Do you think they'll stand down? Like they're getting a lot of shit rightly now. Do you think they'll stand down?
I hope so. But I question the thing I question, look, is there are a lot. I think there's a lot of Trump money there that's funding them. And that money doesn't care about the shit that No Labels is getting. They get the tactic. If we get somebody, a Joe Manchin or a Cinema or somebody like that to go, we got Biden. We got Trump in the White House, and Biden's done. So that's and then secondly, Joe, and you know this from, if you can convince one of those kind of candidates,
Yeah.
And they get that disease that Mo Udall said there's only one cure for it, the Grim Reaper. They get going. It's it's not going to be easy to stop it. I think we have to stop. I think part of the key here is to make sure enough Americans start to understand that no labels equals it's a Trump super PAC.
Joe, we know what the no labels money is doing. We know what their intentions are. But a guy like Manchin, doesn't Manchin say to himself, if I do this, it will fucking help Trump? Doesn't Manchin get that?
I sincerely hope so. I
Jeez.
hope so. But if he says no, they'll go to somebody else.
Okay.
Some former. I'm just saying that but that would be. The fascinating thing, Joe, is they just said that first of all, a lot of their funders also are DeSantis funders.
Yes.
And they No Labels just said that if DeSantis is the nominee, they will stand down. Well, are you okay? Wait, Trump's we're a group that wants to bring moderates together, work together, get beyond, just two parties working together. That's, create a third party. So there's some independence, and we're doing that.
Yeah.
And we're doing it because both Trump and Biden are too extreme. They're too extreme. Two parties have got
Joe,
too extreme.
they said that both Biden and Trump were equally unacceptable. That's mind-boggling.
Mind-boggling. But then even more mind-boggling, but if the Republicans nominate DeSantis,
we'll stand down.
Who's even on a lot of the Disney, just, are you kidding me? Then we'll stand down, because that'd be a step in the moderate direction. It's so obvious what this is, and that's where I think it's crazy. Because the press, I think, it's kind of like one shiny object at a time, and they cover them as separate stories. I think they're the RFK thing, the billionaires in the Supreme Court, the no labels and Harlan Crow and all that. It's all connected. I don't mean, I'm not saying that it'd be easy to prove or anything, but it's clearly there is a strategy here to get Donald Trump back in the White House. And we know they're not going to play by any rules.
Right.
And so, No Labels isn't going to tell us who their funders are. They're not going to release it. It's all going to be dark money. Like I said, God knows whether. My bet would be there's going to be an independent expenditure, i.e., on behalf of Robert Kennedy Jr., going after Biden in the primaries, creating a fight that doesn't exist.
Joe, could Kennedy really soften up Biden for a general?
It's not about softening him up on real issues, I don't think. But I think, look, there are people who in the Democratic Party who are not big fans of the COVID vaccine and and being locked in and stuff.
Right.
So you could to give that voice and to create that division in the party, a party that is otherwise very unified and understands the threat of Trump.
Yeah.
And doing it under the guise of the Kennedy name, et cetera. I mean, it's all coincidence. I mean, that's my point. It's like, I just think that you'd like to think that there's some investigative reporters, some Woodwards and Bernsteins out there who could dig in and really, figure, follow the money and follow,
But it wouldn't, Joe Trippi, follow the dots. Don't say this if you don't believe it, but it wouldn't surprise you next year if you saw an RFK Jr. speaking at the Republican convention.
No, not at all. Not at all. I wouldn't be shocked at all. I think that's already in their game plan. That's what I'm saying. I think it's even these are dots that no one. It's almost because it's unbelievable. It's so over the top. Planning they're not that far out. Yes, they are. That's that normalcy bias. It's sitting there right in front of all of us, and we still, when somebody says it, we still get the, Joe, do you really think that? That's what's,
And it's in your mind, Joe, it's the same kind of dark billionaire money that's doing kind of all of these things.
Yeah, yeah, I do think that.
And you think it's pro-Trump?
It doesn't
money,
necessarily
or is it
have to be.
Is
It
it-
doesn't have to be a ton of them, right? Just
Oh,
so
God,
I
no.
mean, look at what Leo Leonard did, with the court. I
Right.
mean, it's almost like, hey, you adopt that one, you adopt that one, and and by the way, there's no ethics rules or anything. I'm not even saying it's a, somebody's got a playbook and they're doing all this, but I think it's not an accident, is what I'm saying. I mean, I think it's in, it's to get Trump or DeSantis in the White House, and to win this thing, and to for a lot of them, I think it is ideological purity, et cetera, on whether abortion or some other, life or other issues.
That's scary
but
shit. I wish, Joe, you've got me thinking. I'm surprised that some investigative reporter really isn't digging into this shit.
Yeah, no, I am too, and I just think it's part of what's happened with the fragmentation of the media, journalism, and there's a lot of good reporters out there. A lot of them are out of work right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so.
Hey,
But yeah,
critique. Give me a concise critique of your party right now. If you were to criticize and critique the Democratic Party, what would a Joe Trippi say?
I think there's a bunch of stuff that's been wrong with our party. We never focused on local elections, on local state legislature elections, while the Republicans were very focused on it. It's one of the reasons they have enough state legislatures, by the way, that if it did go to the House of Representatives, which is another problem that no labels could cause, they'd have enough single votes in each state to deliver the presidency to their choice, Trump or whoever. But we haven't done that. We're just starting to wake up to that. I think we did. We haven't paid enough attention to working. Although Biden's been doing a lot to really focus on working folks in the middle of the country. But I don't think
soft spot. That's still
but we really screwed that up. I mean, we got so entangled in doing all these other things that we didn't talk to them. It's not so much that we didn't do anything for them, but we didn't talk to them. We didn't. I still think I saw a poll today where more people can tell you what the Republican plan on the economy is than can tell you what the Democratic plan on the economy is. The Republicans don't have a plan on the economy. I mean, the platform is whatever Donald Trump says it is. At least that's the last one. And here, Biden's been doing, I think a great job under like horrible circumstances to keep the economy. We've got the best recovery of anybody in any country in the world, et cetera.
It's a communication problem. Biden, for his age or whatever, he's just not a communicator anymore.
Right. No, I think we had. I think the last real good communicator we had on economic stuff was Clinton. I don't think Obama, who is definitely one of our, probably the greatest communicator. I just don't, for whatever reasons, we weren't talking about what we, economically, the differential, how we were trying to lift working people up. And I think that's another area where that's why Trump is so powerful in stoking the resentment of those people towards. It's easy to stoke them that we don't give a damn about them, et cetera. Part of that is our inability to have communicated over that time period.
It's funny, Joe. The working class people, lower information voters that I talk to every day, and I've been doing it for years, and they don't like either party. They all generally tell me the same thing. They say, Republicans are assholes, they're jerks, they're bullies, but Democrats are aloof and out of touch and they don't understand me. I hear a variation of that all the time from these kind of folks, working class folks in the middle.
No, I think that's right. And I think, that's something that was another thing that was different about Doug Jones in Alabama. He really connected on that way. And so I think that's where I think as a party, we have to put a lot more of our focus. And like I said, I think Biden's actually done a great job on policy to do it. But I think talking to people and explaining what we're doing, we're still, I think, it's like I said, he doesn't make a lot of noise. He just gets things done, but they don't know what he's gotten done because he doesn't make enough noise. And in that sense, Trump's noise is a good distraction from, don't pay attention to Biden. Look at this crazy thing I'm going to say.
Hey, Joe Trippi, let me end with two bigger picture questions. And I apologize if this first one is kind of stupid. How long you're part of a pro-democracy coalition, as am I. So like Joe Trippi and Joe Walsh are on the same team, this pro-democracy coalition. How long is this going to last? How long will we need this pro-democracy coalition?
I think now that the bottle's been, the lid's been taken off for a long, long time. This is not going to end in 2024.
You're in my lifetime.
Even if I think it will not. I think this is, again, I think we never understood how fragile our democracy was. We just never did. And now it turns out it's very fragile. There are a lot of forces in this world that would like to see us, our democracy end. By the way, if ours does, God help a whole bunch of other places out there. Yeah, it's all, I mean, I hear people go, oh, well, we'll move to France. Yeah, right. Okay, that'll last. So no, I think it's not going away. The Steve Bannons, it's now been given voice, and and I think it's going to keep. It's every year. It's going to just keep coming. Now, I do think, Simon Rosenberg keeps talking about trying to get to 55% of the vote this cycle.
Yeah,
I think a couple of defeats like that big could really make it shorten that time frame. But that's what I think it's going to take. Part of this, I think, is starting to get Americans back to thinking about being citizens and not partisans. And I'm not trying.
I love the way you put that.
If the more of us who start to see that, I mean, that there's a common citizenship that we relate to each other, even though we fervently disagree on a subject or a policy, that has to be restored somehow. And I think if we can we win this one and we can start to restore that, and people like you and I can have these kind of conversations together, and we keep building that. Yeah, but otherwise, this is going to be every 2 years for for the foreseeable future.
Joe, is there any kind of shot for the Democrats to have a real political realignment, i.e., all of these folks like me who've left the party, center-right people? Why do you ever see like the Democratic Party becoming bigger, and we all just basically, because this is going to last for a long time, the Joe Walshes of the world, and we all become Democrats? Or is that too much?
No, I mean, I think that'll happen, or at some point another party will happen.
Okay.
I mean, in other words, if both the Democrats and the Republicans fail, if we beat Trump, but I mean, part of the thing that I know from, is that the Democratic Party has figured out, with all its warring factions and things, and we have them, that no, we got to be unified against Trump. That we have to be. Yes. I mean, I know there's a squad and everything, but basically that's all been pretty, just calm
They've been
down.
quiet. They've been quiet.
Right.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of ways, it reminds me of the pragmatism that hit when Clinton ran in '92,
Yeah.
because we had run, we'd run and gotten our butts kicked in '80 against Reagan. '84, Walter Mondale, who I worked for, the vice president, he gets killed, just destroyed by Reagan. Massachusetts governor gets destroyed by Bush, and about that time, the party started to say the left wing, which I was a big part of. I was with Ted Kennedy against Carter.
Yeah.
The left started to say, maybe these pro-business Democrats are right. Maybe we just need to learn to compromise together, and that gave us a whole bunch of successful. Clinton got to, and so it's possible, and I think there are real signs that Democrats are at least trying to get to that place again. I'm not talking about the Democratic Leadership Council or any of that stuff. I'm just talking about pragmatism. The question will be what happens if Trump is defeated by 55-45 by some. How many of those defeats will it take for the Republicans to say to Joe Walsh, hey, others, and if that doesn't happen, then I'm with you. Then I think, over time, either the Republican Party becomes a third thing. They become the third party, something else, or we'll all have found a common ground place, that citizen place that I'm talking about. It's a big tent party that actually has people who are pro-life and pro-choice in it, but come to an accommodation with each other about whether that's 22 weeks, what are the exceptions, and it's in which I think that's what I'm saying. You and I, we know. You put the two of us in a room. Here's the problem. No one's going to love whatever we come out of the room with, but there'd be at least a conversation, et cetera. I think that's a place that we need to get to again, and it may only be in one party, or it may take time for another one to emerge.
Hey, last question, Joe Trippi. I'm a dark Irishman, and I'm generally bearish on this thing we call the American experiment. Like, I generally worry that I don't know that we can keep it together. Joe, are you bullish or bearish right now on the American experiment?
I would say fearful.
Okay.
I don't know that maybe you'd call that bearish, but I mean, no, I'm hopeful that we can sustain. Yeah. I mostly because I don't think the American people really understand what's at stake. I mean, it's if they did, I'd be a bull. I mean, and but I think that's a failure of journalism. Somehow that they keep trying to both sides this thing, or in the way they talk about it. And I'm not. Look, they were trained that way, so I'm not. It's not like, oh, I'm blaming them or this one or that one. I blame Trump and Bannon and those guys for doing what they're doing. But in the end, I think either, if the American people understand the stakes, our experiment is going to keep going, and they'll come together and they'll see themselves as citizens, and we can be a country that disagrees on things but is moving strongly forward in the future. I absolutely believe that. But if enough of them are going into the next cycle or two, particularly the next one, that scares the hell out of me. It's really worrisome.
He is Joe Trippi. Follow him on Twitter @Joe Trippi. Listen to his podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, That Trippi Show. It's great, great stuff. Joe, my friend, thank you so much. This has been fun.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Really appreciate it. Have me back.
Thank you for listening. Remember to listen, share, and follow White Flag with Joe Walsh on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and everywhere great podcasts are found. And be sure to leave a 5-star review. This has been White Flag with Joe Walsh.